Now, before we dive into part 5 of the Performative Allyship series, I want to be clear. As I've stated in the previous video, the allegations discussed here relate to specific individuals and reported experiences, not the town, not the school, and not the community as a whole. Some of what you'll hear is based on documented records, while other portions reflect lived experiences and accounts that have been shared. This series isn't just about racism. It's also about how misinformation, unchecked claims, and public narratives can affect people's lives, both locally and beyond. Accountability helps ensure situations like this don't remain hidden, and it helps prevent them from happening again. In this part of the series, we'll be going through the last 2 articles related to the Glenfield Middle School PTA debacle that resulted in an all-white PTA executive board. Comments, emotions, and questions that continue to plague our everyday society when it comes to race, bias, and differences will never come to an end. It simply just is. One question I came across, though, that really resonated with me was this: can an entire community rally behind something that isn't even true without having all the facts or even considering other possibilities that might expose a racist agenda? After my own experiences, I can confidently say yes, because I've seen it happen. No matter how anybody feels about a situation that may or may not involve racism, the facts matter. And often, there are people who benefit when those facts stay hidden. So the question becomes, why do those who know the truth choose to remain silent? If you followed my story, you've probably heard the allegations that a coordinated effort was made to create an all-white PTA executive board in Montclair, New Jersey. According to those allegations, Black parents could volunteer, lead initiatives, and do the work, but they would not be allowed to serve in executive positions such as president, vice president, secretary, or treasurer. Whether every allegation can ultimately be proven remains an open question. What I can tell you is that the final outcome mirrored those allegations exactly. There were no Black members serving on the Glenfield PTA executive board, while Black community members were primarily serving as volunteers or leading initiatives outside of executive leadership. In the previous video, we went over the first article published by the Montclair Local. The next 2 articles we'll be discussing were also written by Matt Kadash of the Local. This article here is titled "Election Ahead for Glenfield PTA After 59-0 Removal Vote." In my opinion, that title is not only misleading, it is harmful. There was no legitimate removal. The article doesn't appear to examine how PTA elections are actually conducted or whether proper procedures were even followed. Matt Kadash is presented as an award-winning journalist, yet this process is treated as though it was perfectly valid. Unfortunately, I wasn't surprised. When the September 25th, 2024 PTA meeting was officially adjourned, the individuals who allegedly supported creating an all-white PTA executive board continued meeting afterwards. Keep in mind that there were also a few Black individuals present who, over time, appeared to have no issue supporting agendas that ultimately harmed people who looked like them. Personally, I've always struggled to understand why someone would support a system that ultimately excludes them. Nevertheless, these individuals held what they considered their own meeting, claimed they had voted me out, and referred to it as their new PTA. That's not how elections work. But honestly, when this school had well over 500 families, and this was the group that chose to show up, these people, I wasn't interested in convincing people who I believed had already made up their minds. The atmosphere just felt openly hostile, as though the outcome had already been decided before anybody walked into the room. This article here, it links to a YouTube video from that September 25th, 2024 gathering. Let's take a quick look. We won't spend much time watching this because it's publicly available on YouTube if you'd like to see it yourself. It was uploaded in 2024. My guess is they put this on YouTube because they thought it was going to be something that embarrassed me, but it did no such thing. It actually made me realize how much energy they were willing to put into me. However, I do want to point out one particular moment involving Marlena Powell. Let's get to it.
You are responsible for this. We don't want her.
This right here is Marlena Powell. This is Marlena Powell. Here you have a black woman advocating passionately for what would become an all-white PTA executive board. And according to the allegations, these individuals communicated that she could not serve on the executive board, but could still help the organization. Yet she allegedly not only supported that effort, but actively rallied behind it. This woman, this black woman, allegedly rallied for a PTA executive board to exclude black people, including her, allegedly. Let's keep playing.
You are, because you're doing it. It is. And you come up in here and you let her do this.
Now, before we move on, I want to be very clear about something. As I explained in the previous video, I was publicly accused of serving as a PTA president for 2 years. According to Matt Kadash's original reporting and according to the NJPTA, complaints have been made claiming I was serving an unauthorized 3rd year as a PTA president. As we established in the previous video, that simply was not true. According to sources close to those allegedly spearheading the effort to create an all-white PTA executive board, the claim that I had already served 2 years as president became the justification used to attack my PTA presidency. Whether you believe those sources or not, the outcome was exactly what they allegedly intended from the beginning. No blacks on the Glenfield PTA's executive board. Moving further into the article here, Jeremy Fowatana states, "While I'm disappointed in how we got here, I'm generally excited about the path we're about to take to strengthen our Glenfield PTA community and to temporarily lead us into resolution." Let me provide some context. Jeremy Fowatana is the same individual I had to call the police on just months earlier in 2024 because he came to one of my PTA events and allegedly harassed me. He began taking recordings of me without my permission and appeared to scare some of the families that attended. And those are only a couple of things that was going on that day with him being there. That same year, he also appeared to follow me to a Board of Education meeting where he heckled me while I was speaking. This was not new behavior because my former PTA board and I had already been warned about repeated concerns involving this guy, Jeremy. We were told that there had been multiple complaints from members of another school community and that he had been asked to step away from participating in certain school activities and initiatives because of negative interactions. Additionally, according to one parent I spoke with, Jeremy has allegedly had multiple brushes with law enforcement. But sure, let's trust him over the black woman. Sounds familiar, doesn't it? Sounds like America. But back to this September 25th PTA meeting. No business could be conducted during that PTA meeting. People were yelling, using profanity, behaving disrespectfully, and refusing to even allow the interim principal to speak. Under those circumstances, we ended the meeting. No organization to be expected to conduct business in that type of environment. Let's move on down to the article here because I want to point out something. The article also quotes Diane Anglin, who was and still is the president of the Montclair NAACP. She states that she did not believe race was a motivating factor. That was incredibly disappointing to hear from someone representing an organization whose mission centers around civil rights. Further down in this article, Jeremy refers to himself as the interim PTA president. This is the same individual who, according to what my former board and I were told, had previously been asked to stay away from another school's PTA community because of repeated concerns. Now he's in another school community allegedly engaging in similar behavior. How remarkable. Here, Christina Joseph Robinson, a black woman, raises concern about procedure. But where were those concerns when the PTA president was white and I was serving as a black vice president? She acknowledges that a president can serve a second term, yet never addresses the fact that I never completed my first one. She repeats the allegations made by the majority white group, but never once acknowledges the legal documents identifying me as the elected vice president before becoming president. As a result of everything that occurred, school activities were temporarily placed on hold by interim principal Marcos Vargas. It's worth noting that Mr. Vargas is no longer employed by the Montclair Public School District, although it remains unclear whether his alleged involvement in these events played any role in that. Here's this woman Betty again, commenting about fundraising and not knowing what's happening. Yet, according to the allegations I've discussed throughout this series, she was also one of the individuals, if not the main individual, spearheading the effort to create an all-white PTA executive board. This article ends with Erin Walters saying that she witnessed my election as a PTA president in 2022 for a 2-year term. Erin Walter knew those statements were false. She signed the official state paperwork with me, yet she made those statements publicly anyway. Whether she was aware of the alleged effort to create an all-white executive board does remain unclear. Before we move to the final article, I want people to understand that the climate we're seeing today, it didn't appear overnight. Many people believe racial tensions intensified during the 2024 presidential campaign. The timeline of what happened in Montclair coincided with that broader political climate. In my opinion, people felt increasingly emboldened in both their words and their actions. Coincidence? I don't believe so. And while these events began in 2024, they simply didn't end there. Since then, I've continued to hear from members of the community whose experiences appear to reflect what can happen when the outcome of the alleged exclusion of black leadership from a PTA executive board is accepted without meaningful accountability. Whether it's intentional or not, the message that sends can have lasting consequences. And as we continue to witness racist ideology and discriminatory behavior play out in communities across the country, I think we have to ask ourselves a difficult question. If we don't expose hatred, bias, and exclusion when we see it, then when do we? At what point do we collectively say enough is enough? This series isn't about reliving the past for the sake of the past. It's about examining how misinformation, silence, and a lack of accountability can shape a community long after the headlines fade. My hope is that by having these conversations openly and honestly, we become more willing to recognize these patterns, challenge them, and ensure they aren't repeated. People have asked me, why didn't I fight harder to remain the PTA president when I knew the allegations against me were false and I had documentation supporting that? And for me, the answer is actually simple. I had a choice. I could spend my time arguing with people who had already decided what outcome they wanted, or I could expose what I believe was a racist agenda and allow my own experience to serve as an example of how these situations unfold. For me, that decision was very easy. Ultimately, I believe these people exposed themselves, and in my experience, that pattern hasn't stopped. Most recently, I volunteered for a year-end initiative supporting graduating high school seniors. I was told Betty and Jeremy planned to sign up because I had signed up, and that's exactly what happened. Then During that June 25th year-end student event, Jeremy appeared to follow both me and my friend throughout the entire evening. And given what I've been told regarding Jeremy's alleged prior interactions with law enforcement, I was genuinely surprised he had even been cleared to participate in this event. The next article we'll be discussing examines what happened when the NJPTA came to Montclair to oversee another election. After that, we're going to talk about accountability, because schools should never be places where people feel excluded because of the color of their skin. And where organizations like a local PTA or even a state PTA appear to support or enable those outcomes, that sends a powerful message. It establishes a culture. As we discussed in a previous video, there was someone who, after witnessing everything that happened in Montclair, New Jersey with the Glenfield PTA, they came away believing that their own community was excluding them because they were black. That should concern every single one of us. This shouldn't happen in any school district. No parent should ever feel excluded because of the color of their skin. In the next and final part of the series, we're going to examine what happened when the NJPTA came to Montclair to oversee the election. And we'll discuss what accountability should actually look like moving forward. So I'll see you in part 6.